State Highway 360 serves as a major thoroughfare for area known as the Mid-Cities, which is a group of cities that sits between Dallas and Fort Worth. With its north terminus at State Highway 121 in Grapevine and its southern terminus at US Highway 287 in Mansfield, this highway connects DFW Airport to cities such as Hearst, Arlington, Grand Prairie, and Mansfield, among others. With that, a stretch of Highway 360 is also the latest toll road in the NTTS toll road network. What's going on, everyone? My name's Cool Titanium 68, and today we're not only going to be talking about the 360 tollway, but we're going to be also going through the history of State Highway 360 itself. Now let's roll the intro. Now to start off with, we have to go all the way back to August of 1951. At that time, General Motors had announced they just bought 255 acres out in East Arlington for potential future manufacturing or assembly operation. Now for those of y'all that are like, what in the world am I talking about? This is the big GM plant that's right off of 360 and Division Street, which is Highway 180. This is the big General Motors plant, and the reason why it was built was because it needed to be right next to a rail yard, hence why we've got the Jack Cooper Transport rail yard on the other side of 360 from where GM is. It wasn't clear exactly what would go on at the site, whether it was automotive or defense related, but at the groundbreaking ceremony on May 27th, 1952, the plant was touted as GM's first dual-purpose plant designed to be capable of producing military equipment, civilian automobiles, or a combo of both. The plans for aircraft production were abandoned in October of that same year, and the plant was exclusively used for automobile production. The first vehicle, a black Pontiac Chieftain, rolled off the assembly line on January 6, 1954, and the plant was formally dedicated with an open house later in June of that year. The Arlington plant has survived wave after wave of GM plant closings, including the 2009 bankruptcy, and currently produces GM's largest SUVs, the Chevrolet Tahoe and Suburban, the GMC Yukon and Yukon XL, and the Cadillac Escalade. As I said before, the GM plant site selection was influenced by the need to be on a rail corridor, and at the time the eastern boundary of the plant was Watson School Road. In 1955, the new regional freeway plan proposed to convert Watson School Road into a freeway with a northward extension across the Trinity River to State Highway 183 and the new Ammon Carter Field Airport. There was little progress towards actual construction of the freeway for the next 10 years, but the designation of the site of DFW Airport in 1965 revived the plan for the freeway construction. Now, that next year, the DOT officially designated State Highway 360 as a freeway from State Highway 183 to US Highway 287 in Mansfield, and in 1969, the northern section from 183 to 121 in Grapevine received freeway status. By 67, political leaders unveiled a plan for a network of freeways to serve the planned DFW International Airport by its scheduled opening in 1972, which was ultimately delayed to 1974, which included the construction of State Highway 360, 183, and Interstate 20. However, other freeways serving DFW Airport was designated as higher priority, and the progress of State Highway 360 remained slow, with no main lanes open or under construction in January 1974 when the airport began operations. Now again, efforts to begin construction were complicated by the 1973 energy crisis and rampant inflation. The first contract for main lanes was scheduled to be awarded in December of 1973, but all contract bidding was canceled due to uncertainties of future supplies of fuel and construction material. The project went to bid in 1974, and the lowest bid was about 37% above the initial estimate. Still, the project moved forward, and the first main lanes opened in 1976 from Division Street to just north of I-30. So what this did is from here all the way north to right about Avenue J was the first section that was built. You can kind of see why with these little entrance and exit parts from, well, what is today Watson Road, also, which is the, I believe this is what's known as the frontage road for State Highway 360. Over the next 11 years, sections would open to complete the originally planned freeway between State Highway 183 and I-20. Now, this would start with the I-20 interchange that was completed in 1975, with the 183 interchange completing in 1979. The first portion of main lanes to open in the 80s was opened south of Division Street. In 1981, this was extended south towards I-20, which opened up here. And then the extension from 183 coming south would open up in 1983, basically encompassing most of what was the Greater Southwest Airport. This would be followed by the extension through Arlington past I-20 in 1985, and then the rest of the connection from 183, well, off of 183 to I-30 in 1987. Now, in 1984, Arlington and Grand Prairie political leaders began efforts to build State Highway 360 south of I-20. However, due to lack of funds from the DOT, made competition for project funding intense, and local governments were expected to make increasingly large contributions. In August of 1984, the DOT agreed to build the freeway if most of that right-of-way was donated, and officials in nearby cities began efforts to secure the land, estimated to cost $18 million, with Arlington and Grand Prairie taking the lead. However, obtaining land donations proved to be more difficult than expected. While other freeways would receive large donations of land, it was typically by a few wealthy landowners or developers who owned very large tracts of land on the freeway corridor and would benefit from said freeway. Now, the path of State Highway 360 south of I-20 had a large number of landowners with small tracts of property, and the corridor was not a short-term high-growth area. Now, by 1986, with the deadline rapidly approaching, Arlington and Grand Prairie had disbanded efforts to secure right-of-way donations due to lack of success, and the project had appeared dead. Now, all wasn't lost, however. Local officials managed to secure some land donations, and the projected traffic on the corridor was revised upward due to the opening of Joe Pool Lake, improving the cost-effectiveness of the project and making it viable. In November of 1985, the DOT approved funding for construction of the frontage roads, with the first section opening in 1984 and then was completed down to US Highway 287 in 2003. A short section of main lanes near I-20 was built in 2006 up to Camp Wisdom / Sublet Road, and then the last remaining 9.7 miles was built as a toll road in the future, which would then open in 2018, again as the NTTA's latest toll road. Now, on January 25th, 2013, the Texas DOT and the North Texas Tollway Authority approved a deal to construct the extension as a 4-lane toll road. Like what they did with the Chisholm Trail Parkway, the DOT would perform the design and construction, and then the NTTA would manage to complete the freeway as part of its tollway system. The groundbreaking ceremony was held on October 1st, 2015, with construction starting that next month. The current phase was planned to cost $330 million and would build 2 grade separated toll lanes in each direction. That tollway would open on May 11th, 2018, at a slightly adjusted cost of about $340 million. Now, the northern section of State Highway 360 along the west side of DFW Airport between, State Highways 183 and 121 was also a long delayed project. After approval by the DOT in 1969 and public hearings in 1972, little progress was made until 1984 when the DOT approved funding for the right-of-way of construction. The frontage roads would move forward in the early 90s, and by 1991, the construction zone at the Mid-Cities Boulevard overpass would serve as the backdrop for President George H.W. Bush and a delegation of political leaders, as Bush signed the $151 billion Intermodal Surface Transportation Efficiency Act of 1991, also known as ISETA, which would finance highway and mass transit construction for the next 6 years. Most of the frontage roads were completed in 1992, with the main lanes completed in 2006. Now, there were technically 3 different names for State Highway 360. Again, through most of the corridor, so not including the 360 Tollway, it's known as the Angus Wynn Freeway. Now, in 1997, it was named after, that name was changed to be named after Angus G. Wynn Jr., a real estate developer who conceived and built Six Flags Over Texas, which opened in August of 1961. Prior to Six Flags, Wynn also developed the Wynwood residential development in South Oak Cliff, which broke ground in February of 1946, as well as its highly successful Wynwood Village Shopping Center, which first opened in December of 1949. Now, this shopping center is actually right off of Illinois Avenue next to 360. That is what this area is here. And actually, at the moment, I know it is being redeveloped as, it is an almost 80-year-old shopping district. So they're probably going to be doing some stuff here. I know they're probably going to add more in here. I'm not 100% sure, but they were doing stuff over there last time I went over there. Now, when it also developed the Greater Southwest Industrial District on the former land of the Greater Southwest International Airport, basically on the southeast corner of 183 and 360. So all of this here was developed by Angus Wynn Jr. as well. Now, along the 360 Tollway, it has 2 different names for this highway. Between US 287 and the Mansfield Grand Prairie city limits, this highway is named after Senator Chris Harris, who was a local legislator that helped aid the extension. Now, north of that through Grand Prairie and ending at Camp Wisdom/Sublette Road, this highway is named the Rosa Parks Memorial Highway, again, in memory of Rosa Parks. Note the 360 Tollway being the newest built section of State Highway 360. Any sort of planned expansion and or extension is decades down the line. Looking at the Mobility 2045 update from 2022, the North Central Texas Council of Governments doesn't expect to see an extension of the frontage roads for another decade at a bare minimum. And this will most likely be the next phase of work done on the 360 Tollway. The frontage roads would extend 360 basically down towards US Highway 67. And what kind of in a rough area what this would do is this would extend kind of coming south here around the Goodland by History Maker homes. And then it would end somewhere around here next to, I believe this is where, I'm not sure whose data center this is going to be, but next to this data center, and then we kind of just sit alongside whatever rail yard this would be, which I don't think is really anything. Now, by 2045, the 360 Tollway is expected to become a full 6-lane highway at a minimum, going all the way down to US Highway 67. Is that a lot? Yeah, I think that is really pushing it, to be honest. But from Sublette Road south to Debbie Lane, the highway would be expected to widen to 8 lanes, which coincide with State Highway 360's widening to 6 lanes north of Sublette Road, and a possible set of collector-distributor lanes connecting the 360 Tollway with George Bush Turnpike at that I-20 George Bush interchange. This would also be a part of I-20's planned expansion through Arlington and Grand Prairie, and again, it's a separate project that I will discuss in a later video. Now, funny enough, and I don't think I actually put this on here, so originally, what George Bush was supposed to do was kind of follow Lake Ridge Parkway as it is now, but then it was going to kind of cut across these neighborhoods and pretty much follow what 360 is today. So, and the reason why is because with Loop 9 being built, this is going to extend pretty much all the way around here, all the way around to about here. And then now they're already building up to 67 over here, which I believe what would have happened is they would have pretty much extended this kind of coming south and then probably end like somewhere around here for George Bush, which again, Loop 9 was supposed to have would have been the second complete loop around Dallas outside of 635. Well, yeah, actually third outside of that in Loop 635 and Loop 12. On top of this, there are a couple projects being considered along the 360 corridor. To start with, State Highway between 183 and I-30 is being looked at to be completely rebuilt, as to this day, it is still one of the most congested stretches of highway in the Mid-Cities area. The northern section from Stone Myers to Mid-Cities Boulevard would be looked at to being widened to 6 lanes by 2036. So this is and that section is actually kind of on the west side of DFW, north of 183, so basically from Mid-Cities, kind of going up to about here just before State Highway 121. This is already a 4-lane road, so they would widen this to 6 as traffic is kind of increasing. On top of that, the bigger question will be about 360 between 183 and I-30, as I know I've never talked about this, but there's a new $2 billion development that's going to be built right around here that's going to sit all along the West Fork Trinity River, kind of sitting off of the area, that Greater Southwest Airport used to sit on. So all of this area is being looked at to be built. I believe it's like a $2 billion project, but it's probably not going to be worked on for another like 5 years till construction starts, just because this was announced like a few months ago. So now they got to go through all of the planning and stuff, but I would not be I'm kind of a little bit interested to see why they haven't decided to widen it. I think the interesting thing, in my opinion, for that area would be at a bare minimum to add frontage roads going over the Trinity River floodplain. And the reason for that, in my opinion, is because if you're going to be building all around here, you probably would want some connections off of the highway here instead of having to immediately get onto Trinity Boulevard, because there's not going to be much space. And I would bet that they might rebuild some parking over here since this is like, since this would be the new, since this would be the station for this new area over here. Now, State Highway 360 in general serves as an integral highway in DFW. Starting off on the west side of DFW Airport, coming off of 121, this directly serves the towns of Grand Prairie, Euless, Fort Worth, and Arlington, on top of serving Grand Prairie and Mansfield south of I-20. South of State Highway 183, 360 is an important corridor for those coming from the airport to see some of our biggest sports teams like the Dallas Cowboys and the Texas Rangers, as well as going to places like Six Flags and some of the other stuff, most of which are located in Arlington. And again, the 360 tollway will also, has helped to serve the growth going south of DFW. And I would bet that as time goes on and more development starts to be built in and around Midlothian, I mean, I know 287 is going to be widened at that point, but there might be another highway coming down to serve down to 67, and maybe there might be a new loop that could extend it over towards Waxahachie. Might be a little bit of a stretch right there that I just said, but with Midlothian now kind of being connected into the DFW area by just land development in general, and Waxahachie kind of almost in that same boat, it would be something interesting to see if, let's say, they extended this down towards here, maybe to like the south side, and then just build it around to about here. I don't know. I might be putting a big stretch on it, but that would be something interesting to see. With that, we're going to end the video here, guys. Thank you so much for watching today's video over State Highway 360 as well as the 360 tollway. If you guys like what you just watched, make sure you guys like and subscribe down below. If you don't want to miss any future videos, whether it's more automotive videos like this or any of our aviation and mountain bike videos, hit that bell icon so you're notified when these videos drop on their respective days. And my word, I need to get back to dropping these at 8 a.m. on their respective days. Hope you have a great day and a great rest of your week. Peace.